Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the April 7th, 2026 meeting of the Town of Chatham Select Board. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, including the use of AI note-taking apps, please notify the chair. Seeing none, pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 signing of Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027, this meeting of the Chatham Select Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 203-386-491#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. First order of business is to establish a quorum. Ms. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Dykens?
Present.
Mr. Metters?
Present.
Mr. Smith?
Present.
And the chair is present. We have two sets of minutes, starting with the minutes of March 17th, 2026. Is there a motion to approve?
Move the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any corrections? I have a couple.
You do?
I do, yes.
Surprise.
Okay. On page 2, under public announcements and agenda item request, the word installation, I think, should be installment.
Yep.
And in the next line, in the middle, the word released, I would substitute the word issued. And then on page 8, under item 5, first paragraph, last line, where it says board's requests, I think it should read the voters' apostrophe requests, voters plural apostrophe requests. And lastly, on page 9, at the very end, under item D, I would add this sentence: it will be stricken from the list of agenda item requests. It will be stricken from the list of agenda item requests, because I did say that. With that, any other corrections? If not, I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Next are the minutes of March 31, 2026. Is there a motion to approve?
Move the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Metters seconded it, I think. Okay. Okay, any corrections?
How many you got?
One. You have any?
No.
On page 2, under public announcements, fourth line, the reference to the library, I would just insert Eldridge Public Library, because we have two. Okay, calling the roll now on this set of minutes. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mrs. Smith?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Public announcements and agenda item requests. I have one, which has been given to me. The Independence Day Parade Committee is seeking at least 10 volunteers to help with various tasks, including directing spectators to shuttle buses, helping coordinate the final lineup at the start of the parade route, help manage gaps in the parade route, or help wherever the committee may need you. If you are interested in helping out, please email chathamparade@gmail.com. chathamparade@gmail.com for more information. Any other announcements from the board? Stuart?
Sure, thank you. You know, you might not know it from the weather outside, but summer is coming, and there's a lot of marine projects in the works. We have some pending dredging projects, Mill Creek, Pleasant Bay at Scattery. I think the fish pier might be done. We've got the sidewalk going on at the Fish Pier. We've got 90 Bridge Street. We've got a number of projects. I think it would be helpful that some of our marine departments come forward and maybe give the board an update, particularly about Barn Hill Landing as well.
Okay, we'll do that. Any others from the board? Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Listen, this is as yet immature, I guess, but I think it would be really cool and convenient for everyone, including the board, but also the public, our citizens, to have a town calendar of events. I find myself saying to myself, why didn't I know about that? How can you? So I just think, and again, it's immature. I don't know if it's a particular agenda item or something Jill and I can work out with Shauna, but just an overall calendar of events of what's going on in town that day, including meetings, committee meetings and stuff, but more event-driven as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be really convenient and really useful for everybody.
Yeah.
Shereen?
No.
You had something? Oh, I thought you did. I'm sorry. Any from the public? Any agenda item requests or announcements? I don't see any tonight. Okay. Next, as part of the agenda are public hearings. We have 3 scheduled. I'll ask, the first is to consider a request for a new annual entertainment license for indoor live and recorded music for Chatham Moods, 1617 Main Street, Chatham. I'll ask the clerk to read the public hearing notice. Stuart?
Sure. Thank you. Notice is hereby given that the Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. in the large meeting room at the Town Hall Annex, 261 George Ryder Road, to consider a request for a new annual entertainment license for indoor live music for Chatham Moods, 1617 Main Street, Chatham, Mass. All interested parties are encouraged to participate in person or remotely via the link in the posted agenda.
Mr. Hemmings, do you want to say something about your application? You need to come to the podium, and you need to come over there. Please identify yourself and tell us what you're looking for.
Oh. Orlando Hemmings, Chatham Moods, chef and owner. It's kind of simple. I think music would help. I think everybody likes a little bit of a fun hour or a happy hour, I guess. Well, not a happy hour, but fun hour, you know. Music does help.
So you're proposing to do this on, I didn't mean to interrupt,
Yeah, sure.
on Fridays and Saturdays,
Yes,
both, or
both.
from April to December, it says?
Yes.
Do you have particular times of day that you're looking for? It says
Yes.
it's 4 to 6
4 to
p.m.?
6, yeah.
4 to 6
Yeah, like
p.m.?
4 to 6.
And other than Fridays and Saturdays, you're not looking for approval? It says
No.
mostly Fridays and Saturdays on your application?
Yes.
Okay,
Mostly Fridays, Saturdays.
okay. And we're talking about live music,
Yes.
dance music, and a live band? Does that sound
Yes.
right? Okay. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Shereen?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome.
Thank you.
I'm supportive of this application. I think it goes in line with the happenings of West Chatham that are starting. We have lots of great restaurants, including yours.
Thank you.
And it makes sense, so I'm very supportive.
Any other questions? Jeff?
Yeah, I'm supportive as well. It's nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Moods is a great spot. I think it would help. I think the times are right at 4 to 6. It's not, 4 to 10 or midnight or something, so I think the time is right.
Thank you.
And I look forward to coming, and I wish you well.
Game on. Thank you very much.
Any other comments from the board? Stuart?
Sure. Thank you. I just had lunch there. It was great, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We had a,
Yeah, I was going to read that letter.
oh, okay, then I'll wait.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? All right, before we go to the public, I want to read a letter we received This is a public hearing from David Bixby. He sent 2 emails. They're relatively short. First is addressed to the Select Board, public hearing comment. When you consider the request by Chatham Moods for indoor, live, and recorded music, please be aware of the potential for undesirable noise and infiltration into abutting residential neighborhoods and inevitable conflict. Think of the impact of noise on neighbors of the Squire and years-long conflicts with entertainment establishments in Harwich and Orleans, well documented in the Chronicle. The fact that one select person pointed out that the former Southwester Bar blasted music late into the night 60 or 70 years ago is hardly justification for loud noise today. Also, please be aware that the board appeared unaware that entertainment establishments, once granted license, are exempt under state law from provisions of the town noise bylaw. The board approved a license for live amplified music for the taco restaurant under the mistaken impression that the noise ordinance applied. It doesn't, as was pointed out by the town manager's office after approval and complaints. If you must approve the license, I suggest it be with the prohibition of the use of amplifiers. Amplified music, even indoors, carries great distances. Thank you, David Bixby. Then he sent a subsequent corrective email. Select Board correction. It is not state law that exempts certain entertainment establishments from the town's noise bylaw. The bylaw itself exempts establishments licensed under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 138. Unbelievably, it appears that bars and restaurants in Chatham have no noise restrictions. Maybe it is time to change the bylaw, David Bixby, and he attached a copy of the noise control bylaw. Are there any comments from or questions from the public? This is a public hearing. I don't see any, so we'll bring it back to the board, unless you have anything further to add.
No.
Are we talking about amplified music at all, or
No.
recorded music?
Define recorded music.
Well, how do we define that under our bylaw? I assume that's,
Like saying
Digital-
like a Elvis Presley over.
I assume that's a digital presentation
no.
of some sort. Am I right?
DJ, digital,
No.
Okay. All right. I'll bring it back to the board for consideration.
I move approval.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there a, Stuart, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I had another question. To just kind of home in on the noise issue. So how do we handle noise complaints
Common sense.
at restaurants and establishments if the bylaw doesn't apply? Is there some criteria? Can we just wing it?
Is Sean here, or do you want to answer that, Kathy?
I can answer that. So every year, the board reviews all of the licenses granted. We do ask at that time for the police department to provide a list of any noise complaints received for the applicants who are applying for, renewal of those licenses. We do present those at that time. If there is, an extreme number of complaints, we can bring it to the board, or the board can ask to have that applicant come back before the board to reconsider the license. But it's really at the time of the renewal process that we are reviewing that as well. We haven't really had many, and as you saw with the last round of renewals, we didn't really have anything that was, or like to be brought before the board in terms of complaints, so.
Right, and this is unlikely to be similar to the Southwester 25 years ago.
This is going to be indoor
60 or
only.
70.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that-
and it's indoor
Chuck
only,
wagon.
so that also has an impact.
But if there are complaints, it can be brought forward before the renewal
course,
period.
yes.
And we could approve this contingent on no amplified music.
The board is able to modify the license and approve the license however they deem fit. It's your.
Yeah, I mean, if it's, I think the owner's, sounds like he's not interested in the amplified music. I'd like to add that as a condition, and certainly 4 to 6 should be tolerable for people.
Are you offering that as an amendment to the motion?
Please, yes.
Amplified?
No amplified.
Is there a second to that?
He didn't check that as
Yeah, he didn't apply for that.
he did not
And
apply.
he's
for that.
confirmed that he's not.
It's live music, but it's
I
without
don't
the-
think we need to amend it, Stuart, because he hasn't applied for it.
Right.
We're just going to grant.
Okay, as long
What is
as long
it
as
by?
everybody's clear on that, I'm
Yeah,
fine with it.
if there should be a violation, it would come to us.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay,
I mean, I think the order of the day is the applicant, shows common sense.
yes.
If it's
Yes.
reverberating outside the four walls from 4 to 6, then we've got an issue.
There must be something, this has nothing to do with this application, but there must be something in either Chapter 138 or in the regulations dealing with liquor establishments, or bars and restaurants to regulate noise, because we have done that.
I believe you're correct. I'm not sure the exact wording. I can provide that to the
We should
board.
probably take a look at that just going
Certainly.
forward. Okay, so there's a motion on the table to approve the license as applied for. I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dyken?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next, we have an item to consider a petition from NSTAR Electric Company, doing business as Eversource Energy, to install 215 feet plus or minus of 2 to 4-inch conduit and one new manhole 10242/010 for new underground services at 162 Shore Road. I'll ask the clerk to read the public hearing notice.
The Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing at 5:30 PM on Tuesday, April 7th, 2026, in the large meeting room of the Town Office Annex, 261 George Ryder Road, Chatham, Mass., and remotely via Microsoft Teams platform to consider a petition from NSTAR Electric Company, DBA Eversource Energy, to install 215 feet, 2 to 4-inch conduit, and one new manhole 10242/010 for new underground service at 162 Shore Road. The public is welcome to attend the meeting in person or participate via the link at the meeting's posted agenda.
Thank you. I see Marissa Jackson is here from Eversource. Marissa, do you want to speak to this, please?
Thank you very much. Marissa Jackson with Eversource. So our starting point along Shore Road would be an existing pole, which is 17/15. From there, 35 feet of 2 4-inch conduit to a new manhole, and then also an additional 180 feet approximately of 2 4-inch conduit. And again, this is to accommodate a resident's request for new underground service, and that it will be located at 162 Shore Road.
Thank you. Marissa, there is an email which you probably have seen from the DPW director laying out some conditions. Are you familiar with that, and will Eversource comply with those as you typically do?
Absolutely. I certainly received the email.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? Any from the public? See none, we'll bring it back to the board. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. It is approved. The last item is to consider a petition from Verizon New England Inc. to install one new pole number 22/5/5, 36 feet east of an existing pole number 22/5, and 80 feet west of an existing pole number 22/6 on Mill Pond Road, and to install a new conduit from the proposed pole number 22/5.5 southeast along Mill Pond Road, approximately 180 feet to the new Mill Pond pumping station project. This was continued from both March 24th and April, more recently, there was a second continuance. Maybe that is the most recent continuance. This has been before us twice. I understand they are not ready on this. They're still trying to resolve this, so there's need for another continuance. I don't see Marissa Jackson anymore, but I would suggest we continue this to what, the 28th? Does that, Kathy, make sense at this point?
Yes, and speaking with Director Faley, he said, it can take sometimes up to a month for his experience has been up to a month of re-engineering those designs. So we have not heard, neither he nor I have heard from
I know
either
time
Verizon.
there was some time sensitivity for the town on this, so let's not put it too far out. The 28th, we can always continue it again. So I would suggest a motion be offered to continue this to April 28th.
Motion to continue to April 28th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We will call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. We have a consent agenda of 2 items. One is to consider the sale of goods and town property, the Chatham Men's Club author event on April 17th, 2026 at 702 Main Street, Chatham, the Chatham Community Center. The Men's Club Executive Director, Steve Saunders, is here if there are any questions. And second, to consider the use of town roads and special one-day entertainment license. This is the 8th annual Walk for Home on June 20th, 2026, from the homeless, sponsored by the Homeless Prevention Council. And Tricia Murray is present online if need be. Otherwise, I would accept a motion to approve the consent calendar. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Okay. If either of you wishes to speak, I'll entertain it, but this is a consent agenda. We just routinely approve it. Okay. I'll call the roll on the consent agenda. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Next are public comments on the business agenda for those who wish to make them now, or you can make them contemporaneously with the business items. Seeing none, we'll proceed to the regular business agenda, which consists of 4 items. The first is to consider the sale of goods on town property, the addition of a food truck to previously approved annual plan sale on June 6, 2026 at 702 Main Street, Chatham. That's the community center, sponsored by the Chatham Garden Club. And Susan Eldridge is present to discuss the addition of the food truck. Sarah Harris is here. She is the owner and operator of Full Circle Donuts, which will be the food truck in question. If there are any questions, is Susan Eldridge, do you want to come up and speak to this? And Sarah?
Hi, I'm Susan Eldridge from the Chatham Garden Club, and I'm the chairperson of the plant sale. The sale will be June 6th from 9 to 1 at the lawn of the community center, and we are requesting in addition to our application that we have a food truck there during that time period to increase traffic, our customers, and help us with our fundraising efforts. And Sarah is the proprietor of Full Circle Donuts.
Sarah, you're welcome to say anything. You're not here in
On
your
June
official
6th, yeah.
capacity.
On June 6th, I would usually be operating at my place of business at 16 Sequansit, but they had invited me down to their area, so if you already approved their permit, and I was just wondering if I can assist them on their day.
Sure. Any questions from the board? Corey?
Just one quick question, supportive of it, but logistics, if the town meeting's supportive and we have the Seafeld transition, are there any logistical elements that we have to keep in mind with the transition of that project? 'Cause, I'm assuming you'd probably set up to the side. I just want to make sure that we're,
No, it's,
Saturday.
yeah, it's a Saturday, so any of those logistics will be worked out well in advance.
okay. There's a similar conversation got brought up at Park and Rec the other day, so I just want to make sure we're covering that, so.
Okay.
Okay, fine.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right. And is there a motion?
Move approval.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. I don't see any comments from the public. So we will, I'm sorry, Brian Phillips?
I have a comment. I think it's smart, it's good.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. I was wondering, is it more of like the baked cake donuts, or do you guys fry your donuts?
They're fried cake donuts.
All right, beautiful, thank you.
All right. Any
They're
others?
really good.
Okay. All right. We'll call a roll on this. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay, you have it. Thank you. Next is to consider the Stepping Stones Road right of entry and license agreement. And for this, Gloria McPherson, our Director of Housing and Sustainability, is here and will present. There is a document in the packet. Welcome, Gloria.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. So Currently, the town is in negotiations for the land disposition agreement for the property at 0 Stepping Stones Road for the hack development of 14 ownership homes. A standard component of an LDA is a right to entry, and that's because before the property is transferred to a developer, there are a lot of things that have to happen in the pre-development phase. Topographic surveys, boundary surveys, test pits for engineering, things like that. And in order to do that on town property, the private developer would need a right of entry. And that's exactly what this is. We're basically just stripping it out of the LDA because we want to keep this moving forward. Right now, we're still on schedule. So there's a survey scheduled for the week of April 13th, which is next week. And if possible, I would ask that you approve this right of entry and license agreement earlier and separate from the LDA.
Okay, thank you. I had a couple of typo edits to the document, and I'll call them to your attention. On page 1, the opening paragraph, right of entry and license agreement, right in the middle, it's probably the 7th line down that begins acres of land more or less and as further, should say described.
Yep.
And then on the next page, the first, well, the whereas sentence near the top, whereas the owner desires, that should be plural, I'm sorry, singular. And under the right of entry itself, paragraph 1, the owner hereby grants. And in the third line, I'm sorry, and in the second line, it should say undertake the work on the property and access. I think there is a conjunctive that's needed there. I also had a suggested addition to the vote, because it looks like only one member of the select board is signing this unless we're going to authorize the town manager to do it. Does it make a difference? Because I was going to add a sentence to the proposed motion to authorize the select board chair or the town manager to sign on behalf of the select board. Who has to sign it? Who do you want?
So this was vetted by town council, and she put the town of Chatham Select Board, so personally, I would prefer the chair.
Yeah, the
Okay.
chair is more appropriate.
Okay, well, we'll
Authorized.
offer that motion shortly. Any questions of Gloria on this? Corey?
Just one quick one. Under right of entry, the item number 9, it says, prior to entry upon the property for the purpose of the full survey, the developer shall obtain permission from the school district and shall comply with all requirements, et cetera. Where does that stand, or where is that queued up?
So the school district has given preliminary approval, and they have a meeting on Thursday evening, and the superintendent is going to bring this to the school committee as an update.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and again, we'll just add this language to the motion. I guess I'll read the motion. Approve the right of entry and license agreement for the property at 0 Stepping Stones Road for the purposes of due diligence and pre-development activities by the Housing Assistance Corporation, HAC, and authorize the Select Board Chair to sign on behalf of the Select Board. I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis? Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Gloria, I know you have a second item. I want to take the final item. Please stay there. We have one appointment to make, and I don't want the individual to have to wait.
Okay.
But,
That's no problem. I have
so, no,
to get my report anyway. though.
okay. So I'm going to take out of order the item D, under 6, consider the commission appointment for the Barnstable County Human Rights Advisory Commission Town Liaison. We did interview Karen McPherson recently, so I'm going to ask for a motion to approve that appointment with the suggestion that we impose a term of 3 years, because that's generally how we appoint people for terms of office. So is someone?
Mr. Chairman, I move to appoint Karen McPherson as the Town of Chatham liaison to the Barnstable County Human Rights Advisory Commission. It would be until, let's see, the 29, 6/30/29? Until 6/30/29.
Yes, that sounds
Unless sooner
right.
revoked or a successor is appointed, if it's a 3-year term.
Second.
Okay, I'll call the roll on that. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I assume, Karen, you're willing to serve until 2029. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gloria. Back to you to consider the design guidelines draft for 127 Old Harbor Road. And we've had this before us several times. Most recently, we approved design guidelines, and so this is the report back to us. And I think you may have consultants present as well.
We do have consultants present. So you're correct. In November, the Select Board voted to move forward with design guidelines to build on the work that UTIL had already done by doing test fits for the property at 127 Old Harbor Road, the former Ellis property. And we have the design team from UTIL to present the first draft of design guidelines, which were kind of backed into from the conceptual test fits that the Select Board preferred. And with that, I'll hand it over to the UTIL team.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'll let Tim start off.
Tim Love here from UTIL. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear? Excellent.
Welcome.
Excellent. I think I first, I'm hoping to confirm that you got a copy of the draft guidelines in your packet that
We did.
maybe you could at least thumb through before our presentation. Good. I think, just to expand on what Gloria said before we get into this, the purpose of the guidelines is to make it clear to developers, development entities, builders who respond to the RFP, what the town's expectations are for the site layout, the general configuration of the buildings, and even some of the stylistic preferences that I think we discussed when we did the actual development test fits with you, I think almost exactly a year ago. And so that's the signal to the market, as in the real estate market, what your expectations are, so that the developer, so that you're assured that the developer that you choose will build something that roughly looks like and feels like that option that you preferred. So that's the logic for them. Typically what happens in a request for proposals is that there's language that says something like development teams are preferred that commit to build a project that most closely aligns with the design guidelines. So that's the general idea. And so I wondered if there wanted to be any initial questions or discussion about their purpose.
So
yeah.
The design guidelines are included in the RFP? Is that how this works?
That's right. They're included typically as an appendix, and they're referred to in the language of the RFP itself.
Okay.
And the town can make decisions about the legal language up front that refers to them. It can say anything from any development proposal must follow the standards and the guidelines to be considered, to something softer like the town prefers a developer that intends to follow the majority of the design guidelines, but the town will consider variations of those guidelines during the process. The language up front can either make the design guidelines ironclad like standards, or a kind of language that says more like we prefer these, and that we can follow up and discuss that maybe after we go through them. Does that make sense to everybody?
So if we were to give our okay and direction on these tonight, the next step would be a draft of an RFP. Gloria, is that?
So I think that we'll probably have another round of edits to the design guidelines, maybe not, but we'll have a final draft of the design guidelines, and then, yes, I'll work on a draft RFP in coordination with UTIL so that we reference the guidelines, we come up with proposal submission requirements that reflect the guidelines, and also a checklist for evaluating the proposals based on the guidelines.
And that RFP draft would come back to us before it's issued?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right, thank you. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Any other questions or comments from board members at this point? All right. Why don't you continue, please?
Great. I think I then, rather than go through every single guideline that's in the packet, we, because that would be long and tedious, and good news for you, I have a short attention span too. We thought it made more sense if Courtney, in collaboration with me, chose 3 of the guidelines that represent the range of guidelines that are in the document, and then pointed out how the actual test fit that you preferred influenced those guidelines. So you understand there's a direct connection between the dimensional standards and the guidelines and that process we did with you a year ago. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Courtney.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tim. And just to build off of what Tim was saying, I checked our notes, and the last select board meeting that we attended was April 15th of last year, so almost a year to the date. So really nice to be back with you guys this evening. I'm just going to share my screen. You guys able to see this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as Tim said, I'm just going to walk through a couple of our regulations. And again, because it's been quite a while since we talked to you guys last, if you guys have any immediate questions, feel free to, let us know, and we can answer and clarify anything for you guys. So just kind of to reorient us to where we were last time with phase 1 of this project, we went through multiple test fits, and we came up with 3 different scenarios. In addition, created these street level perspectives, which kind of showed the test fits at a much more human scale. So comparing the existing conditions where we have the lovely existing home and existing barn. Scenario 1, which considered maintaining the existing home and then building 2 additional buildings on both were duplexes. Scenario 2, which got rid of the existing home and had 2 single-family homes and 1 duplex, and scenario 3, where we went through and had 2 buildings, which were both duplexes. So this is where we are now at with phase 2, and just to clarify with what Tim and Gloria were saying, the rest of the scope for this project is, as Gloria was saying, a second round of edits. With any feedback that you guys have this evening. So it'll be getting into the final draft and then going through and helping to create the RFP. So you guys should have a PDF or maybe even a printed version of this document that we provided to Gloria with a couple original edits that she provided to us, which felt a little bit more appropriate for dimensions. So the 3 that I'm going to be kind of talking about today, which we felt were the most influential, I'm going to be walking us through the site layout, which regulates the building placement, building in units, which sets the minimum and maximum buildings and units on the lot, which was a big conversation we had the last time we met at the select board meeting, and then roof form, which provides options for a pitched half-story roof and dormers.
Can I interject with a question, please?
Yeah, for sure.
So would the final product show all 3 scenarios or just one that we select?
I think you'll see that the design guidelines will allow for a little bit of market flexibility. We only think the rules themselves should be the requirements.
Exactly.
But not to, I mean, we could have an appendix of the scenarios that were shown too, but we've created a rule set that will give developers some minor options, but to make sure whatever they propose is within the bullseye of what you liked. And I think it's probably a better question. I think it's a question that's better addressed after Courtney goes through the logic here. I think what's important to realize is that we want to create rules that are mostly non-discretionary in nature. So any developer, their architect, builder can play the rules. And But there's a little bit of market flexibility for decisions that happen. And because you also want to attract qualified developers and architects to participate in this. So let us explain the rules and the logic, and I can come back to that.
So
But if that's the question.
I want to add one thing to that. So typically when I've done RFPs and we've had these background studies, I've included a link in an appendix so that if a developer wants to, they can go back and see the test fits. Personally, I wouldn't include the test fits, and I would definitely not include only one, because if you include just one, it looks like we're asking for that project, and then that gets us into, rather than a request for proposals, it's almost like a town project where we're getting a bid. Like, we can't ask for exactly what we want. Otherwise, you're in like an Eldridge Garage type situation where it's just a different kind of procurement process, and then you have to worry about prevailing wage and everything. So typically what we would do is we would link to all the studies that have been done. In this case, it's the test fits. We would attach the design guidelines without those scenarios, and then we would see what kind of creative responses we get from the RFP.
Okay, thank you. Courtney, please proceed.
Okay, thank you so much. So again, the first thing that we'll go through is the site layout. And to kind of answer your question, throughout the design guidelines and how we went about writing them is we made sure that we were referencing all three of the test fits that were approved by you guys, again, almost a year ago. So all of these numbers were kind of taken from those, and we made sure that these are kind of regulated. But again, as Tim was saying, a lot of these numbers and everything is more so like suggestions because it's guidelines and not required within the zoning. So first up is building placement. So again, this is a conversation we had quite a bit, but we kind of wanted to regulate that the new builds need to be built within a maximum of 10 feet from the front of the existing home. What's important to note is that the existing home is built almost basically up to what the current zoning setback is. So this number basically ends up being about a 10-foot from the setback line, which in the zoning would probably be what that number would want to kind of get to anyways. But we are making sure that it's kind of in accordance with that and that it's not, significantly set back because this lot is so deep. This does not include any additional porches or bay windows that would be built on. Those would be kind of extra architectural elements that could exceed that setback. So even with the existing home where the porch and the bay window are, they go past that setback line. So that's just important to note there if those elements are added on. The second is building separation. So we were saying that for each of the buildings on a single lot, they should be offset by a minimum of 20 feet from any other building. This just is in accordance with what's already kind of existing within the context, and also allows for a really great fenestration percentage that is allowed within the building code. So just kind of comparing to what those were looking like within our scenario test fits. So within scenario 1, this is the one that maintains the existing building or the existing home, which you can kind of see where my mouse is. The 2 additional test fits were separated by 28 feet. This kind of just ended up being with, that drive aisle in the center. And then scenario 2, where we had the 2 new single family homes, these were separated by 20 feet. So all of our test fits are within this metric that we came to. Are there any questions about site layout before I move on to the next metric?
No, I think the only editorial comment I wanted to make is that when we were doing the test fits, we made an argument that any existing structure should follow the pattern of historic development that's happening along the larger road there. So, yes, we're now referring to our test fits, but our test fits were predicated on the idea that you want a rhythm of structures there with the volumetrics, the porches, and the rhythm that reinforces the existing context. That's all.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, with that, I'll move on and we can come back to it if anything. Okay, so buildings and units. This is what I was talking about earlier when we had a lot of kind of discussion about what we wanted to have as our minimum and our maximum at our last select board meeting. So a regulation on the number of buildings basically encourages the density of development that is contextually appropriate for the site. So in a lot of conversations with you guys, we came to the conclusion that there should be a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 3 buildings on the site. So again, I remember this being kind of something we went back and forth on, what the difference between buildings and units was. So again, buildings is each of the separated buildings, whereas units is the number of units within the buildings that would make up the entire number of units on the site. So for scenario 1, with the preserved existing building, this one would have 3 buildings, whereas this example of scenario 3 has the minimum of 2 buildings on the site. So for a regulation of the number and types of units, again, it's encouraging contextual development, but also responding to what's required within the special permit for zoning. So the minimum number of units for the entire development needs to be a minimum of 4 and is a maximum of 6 units for the entire site. And then within the zoning for the special permit, at least one of the units needs to be affordable. So again, looking at scenario 1, was somebody trying to say something?
No.
No, okay. For scenario 1, you're seeing 5 units where you have 1 unit in the existing building. If you're wanting to, create some sort of duplex scenario in the existing building by doing an interior renovation, then you could have up to 6 units, and that would work. Building 2, you have 2 duplexes, you have a duplex with 2 units, and then building 3, you have a duplex with 2 units. So you have a total of 5 units here, which is right in the middle of the 4 to 6. And then for scenario 3, you're having 2 separate duplexes, which have 2 units each, which you're hitting that minimum of 4. Again, if there's any questions here, I'm happy to answer them now. If not, I'll move on to the final part.
Just
Can I see you raise your hand?
Yeah. No, I'm just
Plow
plowing
ahead.
ahead. I think you need to
Great.
understand it all before.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so then the final part is roof form, which, as I was saying, regulates the pitch as well as our regulation on dormers. So a couple of these metrics here are pretty typical for metrics that we use at UTL for a lot of our test fits on our zoning. So we came to the conclusion with you all that the maximum building height in stories is 1.5 stories. And then the maximum slope of the roof at that pitched roof is 49 degrees with a maximum height of a 2-foot knee wall, which you're seeing here. And then any roof forms would need to be either gable or hip roofs, so no flat roofs are regulated. And then you get into dormer regulations, which, those start to be a little bit more of a metric there. So anything, you can have a gable or a shed shape of a dormer. I don't know if there's a preferred one for Chatham of what's more contextually appropriate, but at utility you tend to use both. The location from the edge of the roof needs to be 3 feet on either side. The maximum width is the width of the set of windows plus a maximum of 18 inches. So you'd have about 9 inches on either side of those windows to get the maximum width of the dormers. And then the roof coverage that is allowed is 100% of the roof minus 6 feet. So for example, on this side where you have this shed dormer, if you had a long set of windows plus the 18 inches, you could go up to basically the maximum as long as you have 3 feet on either side. To have that offset from the roof.
And just some comments. We call it a half roof, but you're getting more like 7/8 of the square footage that you would get if the usable space wasn't under the pitch roof. And then, of course, to make that second floor usable, you have to allow for dormers. And if you remember in the test fits we did, and maybe we can come back to these, we used a lot of shed dormers, which are common across Cape Cod to get those upper floor plans to work when we did our test fit. So I think this gets you, if the space between buildings and the number of buildings and the number of units is setting the basic logic for layout, these are really the key rules to make sure that the buildings themselves have the roof itself is kind of job one.
Perfect, thanks, Tim.
Can I
And
make-
then, yeah, go on.
I was
Go
just going to say, can I make a couple of comments? Because as you were describing this and I'm looking at it, so on the roof pitch visual, it's not clear that 2 feet is the maximum knee wall height. I think there needs to be
In the
either some
diagram?
language or something that says maximum 2 feet. And the fact that I didn't pick up on this beforehand says that it's not clear. And then the other thing, which I think I had commented earlier, and all of this is, of course, if the select board agrees, but I think that when you talk about those long shed windows, especially if it's going to cover the entire roof plane minus 3 feet on either end, I think we should potentially have more standards for the number of windows versus blank wall space, so glazing versus blank walls when you have a long one. Because you do that for the, the doghouse dormers, where it's basically the window width plus 18 inches, so 9 on each side.
Yeah, I think the same rules would apply to the shed dormers, Gloria, but we can make that clear. In other words, for every window you have in a shed dormer too, you're only allowed 18 inches of wall. So
Per
those
window,
standards
you
are meant
mean?
yeah, per window. The other thing you
Okay.
can think about is limiting the length of a shed dormer too. We've done that too, but those are excellent detailed comments. Turning it back over to you, Courtney.
Thank you. I'm just writing these notes down so I don't forget it. And you said maximum length of dormer.
Okay,
We
so
might
I'm,
consider that.
Okay.
Question here.
yeah, so I'm by no means an architect at all, but I do have an opinion on gable versus shed. Don't you need shed dormers for height in the room? And the gable dormer, to me, you're losing space. I mean, they're attractive. Don't get me wrong. I get why they're included. They're good. They're good to look at. They break up the roof line. They're architecturally attractive. But I think you lose space. And just if you would comment on that just for a second. I mean, both are okay. It's just I think you lose
Yeah,
space with the gable.
I think an architect and a builder or a developer or the collaboration between the three is 9 times out of 10 going to pick a shed dormer, which is why for these 1.5-story buildings on the Cape, they're the more common type because they create better room. So, but we thought we would include the gable dormers too, just in case people wanted to choose them. But I think the guidelines, I think a way to think about the guidelines is we're meeting what the real estate market wants to do halfway, and they'll always choose those options where they can get better spaces or a little bit more square footage. So I think it's an excellent comment.
And I had a
Yeah,
question.
sure.
So bear with me. I wasn't here a year ago, so I'm kind of playing catch up with what you're saying. But
Okay.
did you mention that you were not going to permit flat roofs? Did I hear that? Or
That's right. No flat roofs are not allowed.
because under your site standards, I guess it's page 1, 2, 3, under the gable picture of the house, it says flat roofs are discouraged. Might want to change that to prohibited.
Yeah, I believe, Tim can correct me if I'm wrong, but because it's design guidelines versus
No, we can-
zoning, a lot of
we
the
can-
language ends up being kind of loose, but
We can make it prohibitive. That's your call. I think, I agree, it's probably better to have them be standards.
Yeah, and the history is most of them leak here in Chatham anyway, so
Yeah,
I'd like to
yeah.
avoid that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's an excellent point, though. I think if people are comfortable, I think we could just make these standards, and then as Gloria said, the language in the RFP itself might condition that a little bit. But I think these should be as much as possible standards, so they're non-discretionary. But then to allow at least choice of dormers might make sense. You can either, I think you're right, more developers would pick the shed dormer, and we might, by the way, put the shed dormer on the side of the roof that faces us, Courtney, and put the other ones
like in the diagram.
on the diagram. But I think these are all excellent comments.
The one
yeah, these are great.
one other thing. I think you mentioned earlier that the buildings would be, I forget, 20 feet apart?
A minimum.
A minimum
Yeah.
of 20
20
feet
feet.
apart.
Yeah.
And is that, sorry for the dumb questions, but is that for
No.
square footage on the lot? Why is it so close?
Because in one of the 3 test fits that we landed on, the buildings come as close as 20 feet apart. I think, in truth, if you're allowed a maximum of 3 buildings, there's very little reason that a developer would choose to have the buildings that close together, except for decisions that maybe have to do with the existing house or that narrow neck of property that dovetails around the playground, as that site plan from one of our test fits that's labeled Scenario 2 says.
Okay, thanks. I'll have more questions when we get there. Thank you.
Okay, but I think that's another really good question.
Yeah, and I mean, Tim will be able to talk to this a bit more than I can, but I believe that when 2 buildings are sprinklered and 20 feet apart, you can have a maximum of 100% fenestration on that wall. Not that that would happen, but buildings that are closer together, you start to have a less fenestration.
Yeah, I don't
percentage.
think anybody in our audience is arguing for the buildings to be close together, Courtney. So I think we're good. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds perfect. Yeah. I guess them being any further apart would just kind of counteract what we were showing with this scenario specifically, like setting a minimum of needing to be further apart. Because this was about a year ago, I don't remember exactly why this building specifically kind of ended up here and not a little bit further over. And, actually, it was because I think a lot of what we were doing was trying to preserve a lot of the existing trees.
Those existing trees, and it was a logic about potential subdivision too. So, you have more you want to cover, right, Courtney?
Yeah, it just goes up until the end. Like this is the last part of this, and then we can get back into questions if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things we didn't include this in this presentation that are worth reviewing in the document that you received. One is that we have a maximum facade length before you have to jog the building, so that you don't get big, simple buildings, and that was based on the kind of massing the volumes that this group seemed to gravitate towards. There's other fine-tune dimensional standards that you can add porches on within setback lines to encourage porches to happen, to copy the kind of look and feel of the existing house. So there's a finer grain beyond the roof form. There's finer grain requirements that just get builders and architects to do the right thing, I think, is a good conclusion.
Okay, I'll finish this up and then we can get into some of the finer questions. So again, just refreshing, this is the existing conditions of the existing house and the existing barn. And then again, we're looking at, this one is scenario 1, where you have the existing home, which is the single unit. You have a duplex here, and then you have a duplex here. And then just kind of calling out a couple of the things we spoke to you today. So again, in the design guidelines, scenarios that preserve the existing home are preferred. This is kind of language like how you were just talking about the concept of flat roofs being discouraged, quote unquote, in the design guidelines. The word preferred, again, is a word that we use a lot in the guidelines because they are guidelines and not just distinct zoning. So if there is a different form of language you would like us to use to describe a couple things, we're happy to make that change. Calling out number 2, this is talking about the building placement where buildings are encouraged to be within that maximum 10-foot setback from where the line of the existing home is and the front lot line. So if you kind of are imagining this dashed line here being that front lot line, that's where that line is. 3 is calling out building separation. So again, thinking about the minimum 20 feet separation between buildings. So this distance here would be about 20 feet, or at least 20 feet. Number 4 is calling out number of buildings. So again, minimum of 2, maximum of 3. This scenario is showing 3. Number of units being minimum 4, maximum 6. This one is showing 5. Again, you have one in this building, 2 in this building, and 2 in this building. 6 is calling out roof form. So again, thinking about gable or hip roofs. I believe all of these have just gable roofs. And then number 7, thinking about dormers. So again, as Gloria was talking about, maybe we set an additional regulation where you have 18 inches regulated with number of windows. But you can kind of see, it's a little bit difficult to see behind where this existing tree is placed, but this test fit here has gable dormers, whereas this test fit here has shed dormers. I believe, yeah, that's the last slide that I have to kind of go through before we wanted to get into any additional questions that you guys might have.
So I wanted to ask a question, Gloria, maybe this is directed to you. If the RFP if it's the wish of the board that the RFP include a preference for preserving the existing structure, is that specified as such in the RFP, or is it in the design guidelines, or is it in the evaluation criteria that you get extra points if you come up with a plan that preserves the building?
So it would be in the narrative of the RFP, which I fully expect to put in, and then it would also be, like you said, in the evaluation criteria,
Okay.
design guidelines. Where that shows up in the design guidelines is if you look at where it talks about number of units, it does say single-family homes are discouraged, exclusive of schemes preserving or renovating the existing homes. So we have it in there that, even though we
Where is
prefer.
that? What page?
That's under type of units, E.
Yeah. I got to just jump on that one a second. So you're saying if we preserve the existing building, single-family home model would be acceptable?
Right.
But if we don't preserve it, then it's not it is discouraged.
It is discouraged, exactly. So you don't really want, that. So that can change, like, that's why we're having this meeting. Like, you guys,
Well,
yeah.
I think one of the pitches when we said about, it would be a nice structure, we'd finish it up, a nice family, I mean, playground, school, downtown, beaches, it's a great location for a single, a family.
Yeah, so it says single-family homes are discouraged, they're not prohibited, except if you're renovating that, then that should be a single-family home.
And I think the logic at the time was that by focusing on that building, there would be a higher likelihood that developers would consider saving it because that could be the single-family home. So it's a little bit of an incentive, too.
Why are we, well, I don't want to ask the obvious, I guess, but we're trying to strike that balance, and I'm confused as to why we would discourage the developer from proposing another single-family home.
Because we're trying to, I don't want to say maximize, because we're certainly not maximizing the site for the number of units, but it's a town-owned property. It's an opportunity to get, middle-income ownership housing. And if we can do 2 duplexes as opposed to 2 single-family homes, then we've doubled the number of families that we've helped.
Yeah, and, we've been round and round with different terms of saturating properties, and this has been a very controversial project. I supported it whenever we voted on it last time to move forward with the RFP and expend the $15,000 to get more information, as you explained. And I'm not sure prohibiting a single-family home is getting that information that I was hoping for. We can get into it a little bit further down the road, but I don't want to lose sight with the fact that I want to rehear the discussion on seasonal communities designation that Chatham has become and voted for, and how that will affect us being able to more control who is going to be owning these properties. We chatted about before about hopefully some of the employees at the school will be interested in this, and having that opportunity would be more in keeping with Ms. Ellis's gift to the town. So,
I agree. And so that would be part of the RFP. We would say something like, the town intends to, offer X number of units to, municipal employees as allowed under seasonal communities. Like, we can actually work our desires for that into the RFP so that when we get proposals, they're designing structures for, a family understanding that they're going to be a municipal employee, for instance.
and when we chatted about this earlier, my recollection is we were able to focus it not just, if we chose, not just generally of municipal employees, but those employees at the school, because, clearly from Ms. Ellis's will, she was interested in, promoting the school and the children, and there's still a fair amount of concern in the community about that.
So we can do that under seasonal communities, provided all of the funding comes from the town. Like, we can't use any state money or anything for it, which we're not planning on doing, I don't think.
Good. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, I mean, this is a relatively small development compared to the others, so it's going to be a challenge to get people to propose on this, I think. And so I think we should be flexible enough to entertain all comers. And I guess the question is, do we need to say that this, and I'm not pitching for 2 single-family homes, period, on this lot. I kind of like, we got the lot, we should try to get what we can on there within reason and within character of the neighborhood. But do we have to say that they're discouraged, or if someone wants to
No.
put a proposal in for single-family homes?
We don't have to say that at all.
Okay, maybe that's something we could adjust. Any other questions, or what do you want to do at this point, Gloria? What do you want us to do?
So you guys have come up with a few ideas. The most recent is that you don't want to discourage single-family homes. I think before we ask the consultants to make that change, personally, I would like a vote to understand, to make sure that it's actually, what you guys want. So all of these little points of question, like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? It would be helpful if we had really clear guidance and understood that it was the will of the entire select board.
So the guidelines themselves, the draft, is this document that was in the packet. What was been on the screen is somewhat different. It's a presentation, I think.
Right.
That's not,
That's right.
okay.
That's right.
I mean-
It's an explanation about why the guidelines are the guidelines.
Okay, all right. I'll throw it open for the board. We need to give some direction to Gloria and the consultants as to what we want to see in these guidelines. Stuart?
Well, I mean, I agree with your thought process and what I thought we had chatted with about a couple of months ago, which was, kind of writing the RFP in a manner that we had some maximum flexibility. There's concerns in the neighborhood, and I think we need to take those into consideration. We have Ms. Ellis's will that, although, legally dismissed by town council, is not, in my opinion, morally correct thing to do. But I think I voted for this to move forward because I thought there was an opportunity to have, both sides' concerns met here. So, I'll start by suggesting that, without suggesting a scenario, because I'm not sure there's a scenario here that we can mix these up, I assume, right? For instance, if there's one here, well, scenario one. If the board decided that, to more fit the neighborhood, but also further our attainable housing or affordable housing, or both, process, that we would have one building here, we could do that, right?
So,
I'm sorry, one duplex.
no, I know what you mean. So let's kind of separate these scenarios from the design guidelines. The scenarios were something we did last year. Really, it was almost an exercise to see from my own perspective, like, what's your maximum unit count? Like, that was really what I was after. Like, what's the tolerance for density on the site? And the tolerance for density was like 3, 4, 5, 6 units, that kind of thing, that range. I think that's a great range to put in the RFP to give developers a lot of flexibility.
Excuse me, but when you say last year, do you really mean a year ago?
Yeah, when we were doing,
Okay.
when we
all right.
were doing the design guidelines.
Okay, I'm just
Not
trying
the
I
test
just want to make
fits.
sure.
So the test fits.
Stuart was at a conversation.
No, Stuart wasn't on the board a year ago, but
Right.
we
But
did have.
2 months ago,
But in November, when we approved the $15,000, didn't we, my recollection, we had some discussion, we were looking at scenarios.
We did. We
Yeah.
had talked
So
about density.
we were all
and-
here then, right? I don't think the consultant was here, but I think you were here with us, if I remember right.
Yeah. Yeah, we had this discussion. I just wanted to make it clear. I wasn't here a year ago, so
But we're not going to attach the scenarios to the RFP. We're not going to put it out there and say, this is what we want. So when you look at the scenarios that have been shown tonight and all the scenarios that were done, I mean, all of them could be combined or mixed and matched and everything. There's not an infinite number of possibilities, but there's a lot of permutations on all of the work that was done. And so what we're trying to get at with these design guidelines is, let's put a maximum number of units. Let's put a maximum building height. Let's put a maximum number of stories. Let's think about the placement of the buildings and the rhythm along the street. Like, those are the kind of big picture things we're looking at with these. We're not dictating the proposal that we're going to get. That's going to come from the developer and their development team.
You know, Gloria, just to interrupt virtually here, if Courtney, if you go to the first of the guidelines, which is min and max units.
This one?
Yes. And so this is a good example, which is where, at least we thought that this board had landed when we were last involved, which is there should be a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 3 buildings, period. And then the other important thing is there should be a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 6 units, with 1 unit being affordable. That was the comfort level that the board unanimously agreed was the right range, with maybe 2 of the board members having to be convinced a little bit. And I think that then sets in motion, I think that's a range that sends the message to the market, this is what's possible. Then the kind of building form standards that Courtney went through then has an impact on, you know, how many units are going to be in those buildings and what their shapes can be. So I think that's the starter question, I think, for the board, which is, are those still the right ranges on the previous slide? You know?
Well, and I think that's an appropriate question, because it was my last involvement in this several months ago. I had met you folks, but was that was still up for debate, and maybe that's tonight. I don't know, but I hadn't settled absolutely on a number of units or property, number of buildings or saturation. I had some general ideas as to what I was hoping for.
Yeah. I think if that's still unsettled, then it's premature for us to move ahead with the guidelines until the board makes that decision, because those are the starter rules. And those want to be arranged for the market. And I would suggest that that's either a discussion that happens now or in a follow-up meeting. But I think it's hard for us to do guidelines if those basic principles, which tee up the development opportunity here, are still unclear.
I think it was consistent with what we had discussed both a year ago and in November for you to come back with what you did, but I agree with what Stuart said. Nothing was carved in stone. The intention was that you would come back to us with those parameters, I'll call it that, and then we would discuss it and give final direction either tonight or at a subsequent meeting. Corey, then Shireen, then Jeff.
Okay, so it's no big secret. I've been on the opposing side of this. I've had a lot of issue with the philosophical side about the Marianella's will and how we've addressed that, and there's a long history there. town meeting was presented an action to support a housing project using the existing structures. I've been trying to keep an open mind on that. I'll be honest with this process right now is I'm not getting that comfort feeling that I was hoping for to kind of ease into it a little bit more. So you mentioned a short time ago, I'm getting the impression you're looking for some answers for some very specific questions, so you have some clarity on how to proceed. You want some very clear direction from this board in certain boxes. What is it that you're looking for to at least us to discuss? We may agree or may not agree, but I think that if I'm reading you correctly, you want to get some very clear positions on certain boxes so we can proceed in.
I do.
Okay.
So I think that, let's just go right through them. Existing conditions preservation, building placement, I don't think those are controversial. Number of buildings. I mean, at prior meetings, you guys had actually, as a group, voted on a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 3 buildings. So that's something that if you want to revisit, we can revisit it now. The next thing on my list is number of units. So we have 4 to 6. That kind of falls in with the number of units, 2 to 3 buildings, 4 to 6 units. That would be 2 per unit, or I guess one could be like a triplex with 1 bedrooms and a single family. Type of units, do you want to discourage single family homes or not? We can take that out easily. Really, I just want to go through this and get your general feelings about this, but also I want to make sure that you guys kind of coalesce around these decisions as a board. It's not good enough for me or Tim or Courtney to hear Stuart and Corey say, yeah, we want this. I would like to hear the whole board say that, or a majority of the board.
I think we have to take the 2 threshold questions are number of buildings and number of units. And I think that needs to be finalized as a board decision one way or the other. Corey, are you done for the moment? Because then I will turn to Shireen.
For the moment, yes.
Okay.
I recollect the,
Excuse me.
no,
I
I'm
think
sorry,
I was
you were.
next. Yeah, thank you. No problem. Yeah, skip over me. So I get the flexibility around the design guidelines as they read. I get that, we want an appealing enough a project that speaks to the market and who might be interested in a project like this, as it is a small-scale project. It's not a big one. Saying all that, and it will help with creative openness. There's a lot more flexibility when you're looking at, where, the amount of, we said 2 to 3 buildings, 4 to 6 units. It could come in very different. Everybody's, I think, would probably, I'm not sure, I shouldn't say everybody, because the heart is in the Ellis's home. It's a symbol. If it's preservable and renovatable, that would be fabulous. What happens if it isn't, and we have it in the proposal that somebody comes with, yes, we're going to preserve the home. Is there a process before that a developer would come in and look at the place and the building and say, well, I'm not going to pitch that this is going to be a single-family home because it's not renovatable?
So part of every RFP includes a site visit with town staff, the DPW, and any prospective developers who want to understand, from the DPW perspective, how do we hook into the sewer, what's the water situation, and also, in this case, because there's existing structures, they would walk through that too.
And because this is design guidelines, it's not set in stone how, what we'll get, but we all know, or I probably won't be sitting here at that time, but, whoever is will have the opportunity to look at different proposals. There will be opportunities for more discussion. And if we're limiting if we're narrowing this down, it becomes our project, and we're not the ones that I think are qualified to say that that's exactly what would be the best. I think we need the flexibility the creativity will come to us. It can be discussed again. And, you know, I mean, if we need to take another vote on the number of units and the number of buildings, that's fine. Let's do it and get it over with and move on. But, you know, this could be a really beautiful addition to this neighborhood. It's providing year-round homes. Stuart, you were talking about the idea of weighing in with people that were working in the community. You know, this would be a really proud moment for the town.
Jeff, and then Stuart, I think, had a comment.
You know, I'm pretty comfortable with what we've got here already. We've kind of hashed this out before. You know, I don't care about single-family homes. I'm more concerned that if we could possibly preserve the Ellis property, we do. I have my sincere and deep doubts that it's reclaimable. And instead, we've talked about proposing or suggesting that folks, if they're going to do a single-family home, that it be evocative of the Ellis property that exists there now on that lot. And I'd be extremely comfortable with that. But I'm less comfortable with saying, you know, I want 2 more single-family homes here, because it's really not, that scenario is playing out to not really provide the community with as many units as we could. And I think the duplexes, when we get some renderings back, et cetera, can really be done tastefully, given these sensible guidelines and the way they're, you know, positioned on the property and stuff. There's not going to be a height issue. I think they can be done really well and still have more than 3 units. If you do single-family homes, a guy can come back with 3 units, that's 3 families, versus having 5 or 6, or 5, if you have a single-family home. So I'm not, again, I'm repeating myself, this is what I articulated the last time we met on this, that I think trying to preserve the Ellis property in some way, shape, or form, again, I doubt that it's preservable without a considerable expense. What we're not talking about here is the market. We're not talking about what could be attractive to builder or builders versus what we want as a board. I think we need to give the market the parameters, the guidelines to come back to us after we've crafted an RFP. So the next step for me, to be honest with you, is to keep these like they are for now and get an RFP in front of us and see what that looks like. That's my preference this evening. I wouldn't change these guidelines yet, because I don't know what's the RFP going to say. I want to know the RFP is saying, okay, single-family home, especially if it's Ellis and that property, if you can preserve it, great. If you can't, maybe you prefer a single-family home there to preserve her legacy. I'm good with that, but I'm also good with doing duplexes elsewhere here, not 3 single-family homes. We're not maximizing the use of the property sensibly, I don't think.
Stuart, did you have something you wanted to add before I comment?
No, I'll wait for you to comment. I don't disagree with what's being said. I'm trying to find that happy medium for everybody so we can.
Corey,
Just a couple of quick comments. I think it's safe to say that to preserve the structure at 127 is unlikely. It's going to be extremely expensive. This conversation has gone on for a long time, and I don't recall anyone like Protect Our Past or groups like that coming forward and showing some support for this. There's been a difference of opinions, philosophical, on Marion Ellis' will. I don't recall anyone championing or helping a campaign to preserve that property. So if it hasn't happened over the last couple of years, I don't see it magically happening now. So the economics of it, it's not economically viable to preserve it. It should be, but it's just not realistic. And then the other part is, and this is another part I struggle with desperately, is we brought this to town meeting, and what my belief is at a certain level. This is what we're going to do with the property. We really wanted to move it forward. We wanted to move it forward very quickly. And as you can see, that hasn't happened. But how beyond what was pitched at town meeting is palatable for me? Because this is not just taking the structures and finally reusing them, because we've been kicking the can for so many darn years about it's sitting and we're not caring for it. And I mean, Christ's sakes, the property's not even secured. We had a fire in it, a month or whatever ago. I mean, we need to do something with it, obviously. But at what scope is proper, or at least supported? So these are things I struggle with. This has obviously been a long discussion. But hopefully there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
To put it in perspective, this is practically the most restrictive, like, potential RFP I've ever seen, where it's like 2 or 3 structures, 4 or 6 like, it's so specific. Like, I wouldn't want to get even more specific than this because of that fear that we might fall into, like, a town project as opposed to a request for proposals. Like, we need flexibility, and we need to keep it open so that we get proposals back and we don't tell people exactly what we want, in which case we would procure this as a bid.
What would be the downside of that?
What?
What would be the downside of that? Aside from economics, I mean,
Costs would be outrageous.
it's a unique property.
No. And I don't think we have, honestly, UTIL, developers have more expertise than any of us sitting in this room to come forward with. We know we want housing. We know we want this to be homeownership. We know this. We know we want it to fit into the neighborhood. We've already said all the criteria we want. We can't nitpick the project. And I just feel like I would love to see several proposals come and look at the creativity that would be behind that and the opportunities that will afford it, with having that kind of flexibility. I'm not going to close my mind to,
Let me ask a couple of questions, and we've talked about this before. First of all, the reason we've started talking about preserving this house after hearing the building commissioner come before us and lay out the terrible state of affairs in that building was because we did have some interest voiced by members of the public. So we said, okay, that's my recollection, Corey. I don't think it's been a major project of protect our past or even the historical commission, but so we said, okay, we'll include that as an option and we'll give some extra points to someone that might want to do that. This is not within the Historic Business District Commission, Katie, right? But it would be subject to the Historical Commission.
HBDC. It's not in the HBDC?
No, it's not HBDC.
But it is.
But it's historical commission because it's more than 75 years old.
It would have to go before them. The reason you're talking about one affordable unit is so that you can get around the zoning, right? So it can be a 40B project. Is that the reason? It's not because we want to tap into, or is it because we want to tap into AHT funds?
So, I mean, it could be both.
Okay. But that's not, the idea was to have ownership here, right?
Right.
Okay. And in order to accomplish ownership, we might have to tap into the Attainable Housing Fund.
We will 100% have to
Okay.
tap into that.
And that means we go to town meeting,
Yes.
just as we're doing on stepping stones.
Yep.
So whatever design, whatever proposal comes out of this, that this board determines on a recommendation of whatever committee the town manager wants to appoint, and she comes before us and says, this is what I want, that's going to have to go to town meeting to be funded. So town meeting could look at it and say, that's not what we wanted. And Corey, you've said this before, you're absolutely right. This was sold, I opposed this at town meeting not once, not twice, maybe 3 times. I opposed having housing here, but town meeting voted to do it. And it was sold to town meeting on the basis of, hey, we can put a school teacher in that house. Well, some people made that argument. Wait a minute, let me finish. Let me finish, Jeff, please. I'll let you speak in a minute.
Sure, thanks.
So town meeting voted it. We had 2 town councils say, much to my surprise, 2 town councils said the restrictions have expired. So I'll accept all of that. I'll honor town meeting. If somebody doesn't want to do housing here, they have to go back to town meeting. Don't come to me and complain, as people have for the last several years. So my feeling is we should try to be flexible. And I, was and remain sympathetic to the parameters of the number of units and the number of buildings that we're talking about. I don't know where it ultimately lands. 6 is probably too much for me, but I could live with 4 or 5 units. I thought the sort of sketches in these scenarios were attractive for the neighborhood. And I'm sort of the view that we should continue to go in that direction. But there's ample protection for the town because we still have to go back to town meeting to get the funding for this.
There's actually one more point of protection. So if you get one proposal in and the evaluation team looks at it and says, we don't like this, the town can reject proposals.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to accept it. And actually, that's also an informative thing. Like, if we get a proposal that we really don't like, that's going to be on us to then workshop that RFP so that we can put parameters so that we get something that we do like.
My concern is that we've been charged with doing something with this by town meeting. And I'd like to get multiple proposals, and it's going to be very hard to get multiple proposals because it's a small project. But if we were to get a proposal that looks nice, that provides 4 or 5 units, you can add those 4 or 5 to the 12 to 14 that we're talking about for Stepping Stones Road, and that's a pretty good thing. Okay, you can talk now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, well said. You know, whatever was said years ago at town meeting to sell this notion, I think it got defeated once and then got passed. But I think we have to revisit the vision of why folks got somewhat excited about the property. And that was to provide affordable and attainable housing. And it was mentioned at the time, and it still should be the vision, as has been articulated here, that it could go to teachers, firemen, policemen, local folks. That is the vision I would like to still see here. Stuart's mentioned it, Shireen's mentioned it, but that's the vision we have to hold. So I don't know if we can articulate that meaningfully in a RFP that goes to the market, but I want us to be thinking about, okay, how are we going to get local folks into these, or not, as the case may be. I know the 40B messes it all up, but the attainable doesn't, I don't think. So let's talk more about that. I'm good with what we've got out there to send out to the market. I think I agree with Shireen. I think we're potentially going to get some really creative ideas back.
Don't we have,
It'll be fun.
don't we have even greater control over who can go in these units
I think we do,
because of the seasonal communities law?
And that's
Stuart and Shireen pointed out.
what I want to see happen. That's why we did this.
My
I'll be quiet.
My view, you can be quiet now. My view of the design guidelines is, and what we're looking for tonight, we should clarify, if we can, what is the number of buildings? What's the range of buildings we're willing to tolerate? What's the number of units we're willing to tolerate? We've taken a position before as a board. I mean, it may not have been unanimous. I don't remember every vote here, but, and then I think, for me, everything else that's in these guidelines is fine. And we've been advised that they should be standards rather than guidelines. That's fine with me too, but that's how I feel about it. The roofs and all this other stuff, that's sort of incidental to the main threshold questions. Mr. Deitigans.
Buildings, minimum 2, maximum 3.
I'll throw that out for discussion. What do we want to do about that? They need direction.
I'm fine with the guidelines as they stand. I don't have any problem with the number of units or the number of buildings at all, because I think it keeps it more flexible. We can turn around and say, no, that's not going to work if they come.
Let me add one other thing to the mix. As you indicated, Shireen, you're not going to be here in another month or two. There'll be someone else sitting in that seat. These guidelines could come back as we vote tonight, and that person may say, I don't like them. You know, and there may be 3 votes. There may not be 3 votes to continue.
So are
there's
you
another
propo-
protection.
Okay, that's true, or
Wanna
you
change
can
your mind and
postpone.
re-election?
No, thank you. It's too late. Right.
You can do a write-in.
Stop.
All right, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
What I'm trying to say is, if you are, I'd like to take a vote on this. I've worked on this quite a bit. I want to finish up strong. I don't want to be a lame duck here. So I'm not going to propose that we wait until the election.
No, I'm
or,
just saying that's another protection.
Yes, it is another protection, because you haven't finished, you haven't finished this. And and as Gloria had mentioned, town meeting or Dean had mentioned, town meeting is going to dictate what this is. So there's so many layers. Let's keep it as open as we can. As we talked about this a while ago, that these were okay guidelines. We're all like, it's all on how it's going to look when you see it or read it. It's all ethereal. It's all in our own heads right now.
Yeah.
Not one of us probably has the same vision of what they're reading here. And I think if we keep these flexible, then we'll see something solid and be more realistic.
Okay.
That's my
Any other
thought.
discussion, and then we should probably entertain a motion if we want to change the vote. Stuart?
Well, with each change of a board member, whether it was myself or Shireen, there's going to be new thoughts coming into here. So what I'm trying to do is not lose sight of what we chatted a few months ago when this was brought before us and we authorized it to move forward and I have to tell you, I'm still not comfortable with some of what I hear. I'd like to know, just tell me if we can't say this, that this property that we can require, or we can only allow it for municipal employees, or more importantly, which is where I was headed, for employees of that school to try to honor as much of that will as we possibly can. We were given a gift, we accepted a responsibility, and we've been over this, but I haven't lost sight of that, and that's why I supported it, is that we were getting close to that.
So I would be flexible and use the municipal employee category from seasonal communities and say we're going to reserve X number of units, maybe 4 out of 5, for municipal employees with preference given to teachers. I would never want to say I'm reserving X number of units for teachers, because what if you don't get X number of teachers applying?
Can you reserve 100% of the units for municipal employees?
So 100% of the attainable, not the affordable. That would have to go through fair housing marketing.
Because we had talked not just about employees, but about people that live here and have children in the school system.
So that is a local preference that could be, actually, it couldn't be applied if you only had one unit, because that would be 100% local preference. If we had 2 affordable units, one of them could.
But that's not a category under the seasonal community.
It's not.
Okay,
It's
all right.
not.
Jeff?
I just wanted to remind folks that we've been told by town council that really the strength of the core of the will was the playground, not the house in the playground. She left the house to the town, but the playground was, and we've preserved the playground. And the most recent ruling that our town council now has given us, that it's okay to do something with the house. I just want to remind folks that
Yeah,
and in the spirit of her will, I get it, and I share your, your sentiment. However, it's not, I don't think, going to be practical.
And maybe it will, maybe it won't. I'm still, you're right. It was preserving the playground, but I have it right here. I can read it again. But the will specifically said saving those buildings, and no other buildings would go on the property. So we're probably not going to get 100% of our will, but I'd like to get as close as we possibly can.
Shireen?
I just want to remind, we're talking about design guidelines, not the RFP part.
Right.
And we really need to nail this down.
Yeah.
And then we can get a real creative RFP
Yes.
going. That includes some of the stuff that
Yes.
we were all
From
talking
what
about.
we heard earlier, there's going to be another iteration of these design guidelines based on what we decide to do tonight. Tim, you wanted to make a comment or question?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really excellent discussion. I support the idea we need to provide some market flexibility, because it'll be good to get more than one response. And in my experience, I've been doing this, helping municipalities and state agencies with RFPs for decades now, is there's more confidence in the decisions if you get more than one response, because typically one project emergence that's better designed, is more thoughtful, is higher quality. So I think that'll boost confidence for the next stages. I also, while the maximum number of buildings and the maximum number of units are the kind of gating issues that you're discussing tonight, the design guidelines will guarantee that the buildings that result will have the look and feel of the renderings that we did. The masses will be broken down. They won't be a single large mass. We have maximum facade lengths. We have offsets so that the buildings look more like an older house that's been added onto for the duplexes. And so the design guidelines are very carefully conceived to be just a rule set, but to make sure that when developers propose, even duplex projects with 2 units in them will look like just a big house that you would find down the street. And so I think that we spent some time during the earlier process to make a case that having 3 buildings in a row with a cadence that we're proposing in our test fits will look and feel like just the rest of the kind of historical development patterns that you find on both ends of the street. And so we aim for design guidelines that will maximize the design that will be contextual and should blend right in and not stand out as a kind of standalone project. And that, I think the design does matter here because we want new buildings to look like they've always been part of the community. And I think that's an important thing to emphasize. It's not just about the upfront things, although the upfront things are kind of the essential qualifications.
Okay.
I also think that in terms of creating attainable housing, those units in duplex buildings are going to be more attainable for town staff and school teachers than single-family houses, just because of their value in the market. So I think to have a single-family house as part of the mix, but also units that are part of a duplex, is going to create different price points that are going to help with some of the discussions you're having about privileging employees at different pay scales too. Diversity of units will provide a diversity of opportunities for town employees.
Okay, thank you.
Just to build off of what Tim said quickly, I was just checking a couple of our metrics with our test fits. And the largest building that we test fit on the site, which is the duplex that has 3 beds in it, the entire footprint of those 2 units that create the duplex is 1,500 square feet. So the building itself is still quite small. Like what Tim was saying, it would appear with our regulations to be basically like an existing single family home that's just a little bit bigger than some of the single family homes that we drew through that were test fitted.
Can we, thank you. Can we clarify, what did we vote? Kathy, do we know what we voted? Did we vote previously 2 to 3 buildings and 4 to 6 units? I'll entertain public comment in a minute. Meredith?
It was April 15th that vote was taken? I just want to make sure I'm pulling up the right. Okay.
Well,
April 15th is what I had written down here.
we also,
That's since then.
we discussed it on November 18th
November 18th, okay.
of 2025. I think we did take a vote that night, and that may have been what we're referring to. If not, then we'll have to clarify tonight.
Oh, I think I quoted the whole motion in my report. I thought it was just to expend $15,000 to continue
is that?
design guidelines. There may have been a discussion, but I don't think that there was a vote on the number of units.
It was consensus?
Well, we're looking for the minutes.
Okay.
This is November 18th, Kathy?
Yes, I have the November 18th minutes.
Read that to us, please.
Sorry, my Adobe just crashed. Give me one moment to bring it back up. Okay. Housing. Okay. Okay, so the original motion was a vote to expend $15,000 to continue design guidelines on 127 Old Harbor Road. Not showing, there was a discussion about the number of units. Sorry, I'm trying to read this quickly. Mr. Smith had made a motion to amend the original motion to limit the number of structures. It was seconded, but it was withdrawn because the design guidelines were going to come back to the board for approval prior to the issuance of any requests for proposals.
Was there anything back in, when was this first discussed? In May?
April 15th?
You check that meeting, or would we have a date of that? Do we know the date of that meeting, Gloria?
Mr. Chairman, I think that's the meeting where we didn't decide to do voted against going forward with the guidelines, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
You're right.
It's the meeting where you finalize the test fit scenarios with those three options.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
You're right that there was an earlier meeting
was.
where it didn't go forward.
Yeah.
But then we,
Because we decided to have stepping stones step in as a priority.
All
Yeah, I
right,
think
so at
that's
the April 15th meeting, the board agreed by consensus that scenario one was the preferred concept with the request that the current house be considered in the project. There was no vote, but that was the consensus.
okay. Well, it would appear that we haven't taken a formal vote on the number of buildings or the number of units. So I think we should do something tonight so the people will know what to do, if anything. So I'll throw out, again, for consideration, what should the number of buildings be?
And I would suggest, as I did earlier, between 2 and 3.
And is that a motion?
Yes.
I'll second it.
So there's a motion and seconded to have the guidelines recite that the number of buildings be 2 to 3 units, 2 to 3.
Correct.
Any discussion on that?
You've got a hand up, I don't know if you want.
Yes, so we'll do that in a minute.
And if it were, let's just say if it were 2 buildings, because I know we chatted about that as well, and I get the advantage of broadening it to 3, but if it were 2,
Yeah.
one could be the single-family
Yes.
home, and then the second would be whatever we decided.
Yes.
It could be, we probably wouldn't, but it could be another second, single-family home.
So it
but
would be
more like-
whatever a developer decided.
Well, ultimately, it's coming back here, I assume, for a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, you see where I'm headed? I am really uncomfortable, and I'm kind of going back to Corey's discussion about a developer deciding what's going on this property. I don't want to lose control of what's happening here.
Well, we'll have the ultimate control. We're not going to be able to predetermine what the developers are going to propose.
I understand, but we could predetermine the number of buildings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Shireen, and then I want to go for public comment. Meredith.
Good evening. Meredith Fry, 18 Cross Tree Hollow, but I'm also here as Park and Rec Commissioner, Chairman of Parks and Rec, because I remember when this first went to town vote, I stood outside or sat in the blazing sun on the A's field, and it was the last item on the agenda. Mrs. Ellis wanted this property to go to the children. She loved the noise of the playground. It brought her joy, and that's why she wanted her property to go to the children. And that's where Park and Rec was involved. It was first voted down. So it came back and it was approved for affordable, attainable housing. So I just think the board should be very, very careful here and make this property look inclusive and not standalone. Also, if you're talking about municipal workers, you should really be talking about young families with children, because that was her wish for children, to hear, children brought her joy. So if the town is going to do this, I think you need to be very careful about the number of buildings. I agree with Corey. I don't think the first home is salvageable. There was a fire. It's been sitting there rotting for years. It's going to cost the town way too much money. I think you can make it look like her old home. It's not historic. I mean, it's older, but it's not part of the Historic Commission, correct? Or,
It's under the jurisdiction of the Historic Commission, but not,
but it's not
not the HBDC.
HBDC. So I think you just want to be very careful here. Also, the town wants more attainable housing, so you really want to make it look nice. You want to make it look that it belongs there, and that families feel comfortable going there, that they're not in affordable housing or attainable housing. So I think moving forward, you should be very careful with what you decide tonight, with how many units you want there, because this is a unique property. And it's not like, stepping stones where you can fit a few more. And you want it to look nice, and you want more. So I just think the board should be very careful in how they decide tonight, if you decide tonight.
Thank you, Meredith.
Thank you.
Brian Phillips, and then who's going first? I thought Carol Gordon.
We're all lined up. Carol Gordon, South Chatham. I was just wondering if any of this has been weighed in through the public? Has there been, maybe I missed it, has there been a public hearing on this or anything like this? Or will there be?
There's been no public hearing per se, but, because we haven't been required to have that, but there have been
Okay.
multiple occasions where this property and what to do with it has come before this board, and we've entertained public comment on numerous occasions.
Okay.
But there hasn't been, quote, a public hearing.
Also, the Affordable Housing Trust had discussion on this.
The
and-
Affordable Housing Trust?
Yeah, we did. And also, it was informed by the, our housing need assessments and what, how we brought stuff forward.
That's the.
And town meeting weighed in
That's the
on it.
document, yes.
Yeah.
Town meeting has
Weighed in.
twice.
Right.
So it has been
With the
vetted.
funding and things. Will the public have a chance to look at the designs? Once if tonight there's 3 designs, and I was wondering if you go through with those 3 designs, would the public have a
Well,
chance to weigh in on that?
those scenarios aren't final designs, but they're certainly
Right.
in the packet of materials that's in.
Yes, I
listed
know
with
that, right.
Whatever future product is presented to us from the consulting firm through Gloria, those will be publicly available for observation and comment by the public at
Okay.
our meetings.
Okay,
So
fine.
it will be a public process.
Good, thank you.
It doesn't preclude for us to have a public
We
hearing.
could.
We chose to.
We could have a public hearing on anything if we wanted to, yes. Brian Phillips.
Brian Phillips, 370 Orleans Road. I know Attorney Ford was representing some clients that are opposed to this, use on this property. I was wondering where that stood, if the town had any information about that.
We haven't heard anything more from either of the 2 attorneys since they sent their 2 letters, I believe they sent.
So I guess I'm just wondering, are we wasting, time and money and resources in, a relatively controversial, site that's just going to result in a, lengthy, expensive legal battle?
Well, I mean, all I can tell you is our current town council feels confident in the position and opinion that he's given us, and, that's what we have to go by. And, I'm not going to stand in the way of that. We have a charge from town meeting to do something about it. And if people feel really strongly that their legal position is correct, they can go to court. I haven't seen any evidence that they're likely to do that, but they could. I mean, people can go to court on anything. But, we're charged with doing something with this property by town meeting, and the solution to stop it, if people want to stop it, and I'm not proposing that is to go back to town meeting. That's,
I'm just, very controversial property.
I understand. I was at that meeting in the Sun in Meredith, and I voted the same way.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
It's, we have another property on George Ryder Road that's donated for this. I just am wondering if it's better to, put our resources towards that instead.
No, your points are well taken.
All right, thank you.
I just want to point out that the George Ryder Road property is fundamentally different than this because it's for the purposes of affordable housing, whereas this is primarily attainable.
Yes.
Thank you. I had one more question. Instead of doing, you said one unit's got to be affordable and the rest are attainable possibly, although I am opposed to putting new buildings on this, if we were to, could we do something like market value with the year-round deed restrictions?
Gloria?
I mean, we could, it's allowed under seasonal communities.
It's allowed.
She's saying it's allowed under the seasonal communities designation.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? All right, so Corey, we have a motion on the table, so Corey.
No, I mean, basically, we're talking, we can keep going around and around on this, but we have
And we have.
We have. So we'll keep it beating a dead horse, but no. It's a range 2 to 3. 2 falls in line with what there's 2 structures there now. There's the house and the barn, basically. So 2 falls in line, 3 gives some flexibility. I don't think it precludes us from a month from now arguing 2 over 3 again. So let's just move forward with 2 or 3. I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference at this stage. So I'm fine with to move forward with 2 or 3, buildings.
Any more comment from the board before I call for a vote on this motion? All right. So the motion is to establish in these design guidelines that the number of buildings will be 2 to 3. I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis.
Aye.
Mr. Dykens.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. All right. That's progress.
Finally.
Now, the next item of consequence is the number of units. And it's been proposed in the guidelines that it be 4 to 6 units. And I'll throw that open for discussion. Shireen.
Well, I'm going to make a motion that we accept the design guidelines of 4 to 6 units. And
Is there a second? to
I'll
that?
second that.
Okay. Is there any comment or discussion on it? Corey, you want to say something?
I'm on the lower side of that, but I guess 4 to 6, again, we can split hairs here. I'm on the lower end of the spectrum. It gives us a range of arguments for later, so I'm fine.
And I haven't really said what I think is best, so I'm saying 4 to 6. I want to see what comes back.
Well, the reason I'm struggling with a higher number of units is, again, my opinion is that this was presented at town meeting and supported with a certain kind of, what I believe is a certain package. And I think we're pushing what was presented at town meeting a little bit broader than I feel comfortable with. So that's why I'm trying to stay within the scope of what I believe town meeting voted for. I think 6 is beyond that. We've argued about having flexibility, but I've said my piece, and I think we can kind of work with the discussion.
Any other comments? Stuart?
Do you ever feel like you're being dragged down a hallway that you're somewhat reluctant?
I've been feeling that way since town meeting voted to do this.
Yeah, and as you
But I'm happily
aptly,
trying to make it work.
and as you aptly have said, the select board is a different entity from town meeting.
Yes.
And we can disagree with town meeting to our own peril. So I could support 4. I think 6 is I know it's a 4-letter word, but density is an issue here. And so I could support 4, but I'd be very reluctant about 6.
Jeff, you had your hand up.
So I just want to remind folks as well, on the reminder this evening, that this board, all of us, including Stuart, have signed on to our overarching goals and objectives for the town, the number one of which was to increase the inventory of affordable and attainable housing. That's number one, and has been for a while. We've been behind the 8 ball for decades, and I think we're overthinking this. And I really think that we ought to keep as flexible as possible and put out to the market 4 to 6 and see what comes back. I think we're going to be delighted when stuff comes back. Thank you.
I've, just to respond, I've been supportive of this attainable housing and some of the affordable. adamantly against the Main Street and Meeting House, but the others I've been very flexible about, and I've supported Stepping Stone. And this one, correctly done, because this will be the third meeting I think I've said this at, correctly done, we can conform to a lot of Ms. Ellis's wishes, and we can add to the inventory of attainable homes.
I think you have supported every vote that we've taken on this since you've been on this board.
And I wasn't suggesting he hasn't.
No, no,
was
I
just
know
making the
that.
point that we've all signed off on those goals and objectives.
No, I agree,
Thank
and
you.
I'm just saying, we've had unanimous
Yes, yeah.
approvals on these. So, you know, my sense of the 4 to 6 is, I think personally 6 is probably too many. I think it's not likely that I'm going to want to see 6 on there if that's what comes in from a developer. We might have a nice project and they're proposing 6, and I think we might want to knock them down to 5. But I can live with the range that's recited of 4 to 6. For me, something of comfort would be probably 4 or 5, but I can live with 4 to 6. So are there any public comments? Is there any public comment on this item? I'm looking, I don't see any. I don't see any online. So did we have a motion? I think we did.
Motion and a second.
Motion and
Shereen
second
moved, I seconded.
to have 4 to 6. And that at least gives some.
It looks like there's somebody online
Oh,
with their
okay,
hand
I'm
raised.
sorry. Yes, it just says G,
Guest.
guest.
Yes, it's Elaine Gibbs.
hi,
I just want to,
Hi,
I
Elaine.
just want to remind people, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that sometimes I think there's situational ethics, and this is more of a global thing. When Kate Gould Park came up, everybody was very concerned about following her wishes about what was to be done at Kate Gould Park. And yet when it comes to Mrs. Ellis, that's not the case. And Kate Gould's was over 30 years. So I would hope you remember that. And just because you think you found a technical loophole in this, people are not going to donate land to this town anymore, knowing that you will change your minds and do what you want with it. So bear that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. Any other public comment? Okay. So I'll bring it back to the board for a vote. We have a motion to have 4 to 6 units, and I will call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
No.
And the chair votes aye, so that one is 4 to 1. Okay, so that gives direction. What about the rest of the guidelines that have been proposed? To me, they look fine, but Shereen's?
The type of units, there is some discussion about single-family homes being okay. And I might offer a slight edit to what's already in there. Scheme should consist of a minimum of 2 units per building. Single-family homes are discouraged, I would leave that, exclusive of schemes preserving or renovating, and then adding or rebuilding
Yeah.
the existing home.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's a way to get, like,
Yes.
the home
Let me back
rebuilt.
up, because we're just eliminating the discouragement of single-family, the line that says they're discouraged, right?
Well, I would keep that they are discouraged unless you're rebuilding that home or renovating it. Or you can take it out. You don't have to discourage them.
I mean, I asked the question earlier, do we have to have that in?
Yeah.
I think the idea of offering the option to renovate the existing home should be in there somewhere, whether it's here or in the, as you said earlier, in the
It'll be in
evaluation
both.
criteria or in the RFP, they should be somewhere. But I think there was some sentiment that having a statement that we're discouraging single-family homes probably doesn't belong in here. That was my take from the earlier.
I didn't get that from the majority of the board.
Well, I fully agree, because if we're having the argument, we want to have a lot of flexibility. My feeling, the single-family home would be the existing structure, sadly renovated and not preserved. But if the architect comes back and says a plan that has the main house as a duplex or something, and then another single-family home on another part of the parcel, we're shortening our options. And that's the argument we've all been making, or the majority of the board has been making. So I think discouraging, changing that language, I'm not supportive of.
Okay.
So what do we want? Are we going to leave it in or take it out?
The language of discouraging single-family homes, I would not keep in.
Okay. So what we're doing now is tweaking the guidelines so that they can proceed. So what is the sentiment on this particular item?
Well,
I don't think there are many items we're going to be talking about here, but this is one.
I mean, I agree with Corey, but to get back to Gloria's comment, I think that, to get back to flexibility, that the renovating of that building should be considered.
Okay. What,
And she also suggested and/or it's rebuilding.
and/or what?
Yes.
She also suggested and/or it's rebuilding, it's renovation and it's rebuilding. I honestly think renovation is
It may not
not
work,
gonna
but we should try.
Shereen?
I like the idea of adding the and rebuilding into it, but I think that the caveat that we're discouraging single-family except for the Ellis building, the Ellis home, makes sense to me. Because we're maximizing effort here, and we just voted on how many units we want to see, 4 to 6. So, I mean, logic would tell me.
It may be an oxymoron to expect that somebody's going to come in if we want 4 to 6, and that they're going to come in and propose single-family homes. But you're right, but I don't know. I personally think the language of discouraging single-family homes should go out, should not be in, because I don't think it's realistic that somebody's going to come in and propose it. But I'm perfectly comfortable with including renovation or rebuilding of the existing premises as an option.
So
If we have to,
I agree.
we'll take a vote on this because I think we need to clarify.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you that it's remote, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. I mean, all they can do is say, no, we're not going to propose that, right?
Yeah, but you're in favor of eliminating the discouragement language.
Yeah, I do not want to discourage single.
That's the issue before us right now.
Right, and I don't want to discourage that.
You're not going to get your units.
Yeah,
You have 3 single-family homes, you're not going to get I mean, no one, what is it we want to do here? What do we want to accomplish? We want to accomplish tasteful, attractive, very, units for folks to live in, hopefully for locals to live in. So if we say single-family homes are discouraged, who's going to come in and build 3, we're not going to attain our goal. And what is your goal? What is your goal? Your goal is to provide more housing, attainable and affordable housing in this town. I don't think single-family homes should be encouraged,
But I don't think it.
except for, that's what I
I don't
think.
think it adds anything to say that single-family homes are just.
You're going to get 3, it's 3 units.
So I think it does, and I'll explain why. So when you think about the last couple of things you voted on, you're already starting to shape what this project is going to look like, right? So you said 2 or 3 buildings. So, but 4 to 6 units. So technically, you can't really build 3 single-family homes and be in conformance with the other part of that where it says 4. However, if someone is going to do a single-family home, I want it to be the Ellis house.
Yes.
That's why, because you can't build a project of all single-family homes. You want to focus that single-family home energy on the Ellis house. So you do want to discourage single-family homes unless it's the Ellis house rebuilt. That's the way I look at that. Because you've already discouraged single-family homes by having 2 or 3 buildings, but 4 to 6 units. Right? So it's already discouraged, just by the numbers, when you
recite it?
puzzle this out.
Why do you have to recite it?
Because the opportunity is to encourage the renovation of a single-family home for the Ellis house.
Right.
And so, in saying so, it sort of defines that that would be, that we're wishing that becomes a single-family home.
Like, if you can work a single-family home into these numbers, which, I mean, technically you could work 2 and a duplex. That's like your minimum.
4.
That would be, right, that's 4 units, which hits the minimum, and 3 structures. But don't you want one of those to be the Ellis house? Like that, so that's why I would always say it's discouraged, because you're already discouraging it anyway. So it's discouraged except if you're doing that. I'm happy to take it out, though.
Lori?
I agree the Ellis House would be the most sensible location, but we're arguing about flexibility in 4 to 6 and 2 to 3, and, in one breath, but we're narrowing ourselves. It's contradictory to what we've been preaching. This is probably why it's taken so many damn years.
I'm going to concede and just let's.
Me too. I'm
Yeah.
done. I'm done. Take it out.
So we're taking out discouraged.
Are we going to say anything about encouraging the Ellis House renovation and rebuilding? Because there seemed to be some sentiment. I think it was pretty much unanimous around including that.
So I would probably, because now single-family homes aren't discouraged, I would probably make that point stronger in the RFP itself and not in the guidelines.
For the rebuilding of the.
Yeah.
what- I think that's what you guys had left to decide.
I'll add the word rebuild. So
You should have rebuilding in there, because if we're going to have a single-family home, it should be on, I think we have consensus here that it should be there on that lot.
Does it hurt, Gloria, to say that renovation or rebuilding of the Ellis House
is preferred.
Preferred.
is
Is encouraged.
and including that in the guidelines? It doesn't seem to hurt to
Okay.
put it in there. Does anybody?
With a consideration of its renovation, tongue-in-cheek. So,
But, okay, so we know, do we need to take a vote on this one? Well, let's take a vote, so there'll be no question.
Motion.
The motion by Serene Davis is to include encouragement of the rebuilding or remodeling, renovation or rebuilding of the Ellis House. Is there a second to Ms. Davis's motion?
Second.
All right, no public comment, I'll call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay. Now, you had something else, Gloria, that you started to say about the types of units
had-
or something earlier. You said it a little while ago, and then we
About
got
the windows and stuff?
No, it wasn't far back. It was just at the beginning of
I
this.
think it might have been unit sizes.
Unit
Gloria,
sizes,
maybe?
was that it? You were talking about unit sizes. And then I interrupted and I said, we need to focus on.
I don't remember.
There's nothing in unit sizes in there.
Yeah, I don't think we qualified those anyway.
There was
Kathy, you
nothing
have
in
it?
unit sizes.
Kathy's can pull this up.
There was dormers and siding and windows.
You were looking for some clarity. Kathy can pull it up.
And we were also going to say flat roofs are prohibited rather than discouraged. Is everyone on board with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you.
You want to vote?
No, that was my vote. Yeah, I don't have any notes about.
I don't recall that
You're
coming
saying, I
up either.
don't-
yeah.
Is that an AI thing, or?
It's the captions, the transcript that.
Yeah, it wasn't
collects.
that far back. It was just when Gloria said there were a few things we need to pin down, right after we took the vote on that was 4-1 on the number of units.
Rest of the guidelines.
I think she was mentioning the size of the buildings.
The types of units, there's some discussion about single-family homes being okay. Offer a slight edit to what's there. The scheme should consist of a minimum of 2 units per building. And then you went into the discouraged
All
conversation,
right,
so.
that is what you said. I wasn't sure whether you were proposing something. Well, you can.
She did propose an edit, but again, the discussion went into the
Okay.
word discouraged and kind of,
Okay, so we've taken the votes on the number of buildings and the number of units, and we're encouraging the preservation of the Ellis House. Those are the 3 votes we've taken. They've all prevailed. And is there anything else in these design guidelines that we want to give direction to? Otherwise, we can either take a vote, or it can be consensus that Gloria will work with UTIL and finalize these and come back to us for a final approval.
Okay.
Is that the sense? Do we want to take a vote on that?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, it's kind of a clumsy motion on my
okay.
part, but I.
Yeah, it's okay, we got the gist of it.
Okay.
We're voting on our consensus for those three items.
Okay. All right, I'll call the roll on that unless there's public comment. I don't see any. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I think we've completed this agenda item, right, Gloria?
I hope so. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Gloria. And I'll
Thanks for
take,
your consideration.
Second.
moved and seconded to adjourn. Call the roll. Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dykens?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned at 7:44 PM. Good night, Chatham.